Right. Welcome, everyone. We'll wait for another minute or so to wait for participants to enter the room, and then we'll start our session. Welcome, everyone. Very pleased to see you joining. I'll wait for another minute, and then we'll start our webinar. Right. So good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, very happy that you're joining our session today, the virtual side event to the United Nations Ocean Conference 2025. Um, so I would at first like to welcome you all and give you a bit of an overview of the agenda. So I'm starting the presentation. Right, here it is. So yeah, our seminar is Blue Mission AA, Aligning Ocean Research with Societal and Planetary Needs. Yeah, I really look forward to an engaging session and discussion with all of you. So at first, let's have a look at the agenda. Great. Yeah, we will first present ourselves. Who are we? Who's the team? And then the project Blue Mission AA, within which we developed the reflection tool, which is really the core of this whole session. Then we will get to the responsible and sustainable research reflection tool for ocean and waters. What is it? Why is it special and useful? And how does it work? And then Oliver Wilson from the Marine Institute will share his user perspective on the reflection tool. And after that, we look forward to discuss with all of you. Right. So this session is led by the AIR Center, the Atlantic International Research Center, and is organized together with NIVA, the Norwegian Institute for Water Research, Fraunhofer IRB, that's the Fraunhofer Information Center for Regional Planning and Building Construction, and Ireland's Marine Institute. So the speakers today are Anna Faria. She's a researcher at the AIR Center. Then Barbara Klobucharic, my colleague and research associate at Fraunhofer IRB. Myself, same role as Barbara. And then Oliver Wilson, the program manager for Blue Mission AA at Ireland's Marine Institute. Great. So just a few words we would like to discuss with you. So please, if you have any questions, write them in the chat. We'll try to include them soon. And we will use Slido to interact with you, asking a few questions. So once the thing opens, you can scan a QR code, and it's good to leave the tab open so that things are a bit easier. And I think Patricia wrote it already. It would be great if you could all write into the chat where you are from, which city and or country. Right, I'm seeing this here already. Let me check. Spain, Germany, Denmark, and Ghana. Wow, very, very diverse. A bit, a bit European focus. Okay, very nice. Welcome to all of you. So then I would like to pass over to Anna Faria to give you an overview of the project Blue Mission AA. Right,
Thank
Anna,
you.
over to you.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you everyone for joining our seminar. Today I'm here to represent the coordination of the Blue Mission Atlantic and Arctic, which is the coordination and support action for the Atlantic and Arctic Lighthouse. The Blue Mission AA brings together multiple projects aimed at protecting and restoring marine ecosystems and biodiversity in the Atlantic and Arctic basins. So this is an overview of the projects within the Mission Ocean. To give you an idea, more than 200 out of more than 1,000 Mission Ocean projects are within the Atlantic and Arctic basins. And of these, approximately 57 projects fulfill the goal of protecting and restoring ecosystems and biodiversity in a total of 400 million euros and more than 1,000 participants. Of these, interestingly, 60% come from research and academia sectors. Can you pass, Hannah? Thank you. So there are currently over 30 ongoing projects across various funding programs in the Atlantic and Arctic basins. And these projects cover restoration and ecosystem-based management, governance and blue economy, citizen science, and stakeholder engagement. And together they support around 90 demonstration sites, which are real-world test beds for nature-based solutions, innovative restoration methods, ecosystem monitoring. And these efforts are further amplified by 17 associated regions collaborating to scale up successful actions. I've selected four flagship projects. We have plenty more projects, but I've selected four, the Agora, Climarest, Ocean Citizen, and Rest Coast. They demonstrate cutting-edge restoration in diverse ecosystems, ranging from Arctic fjords, seagrass meadows, kelp forests, oyster reefs, coastal wetlands, dunes, and more. So these restoration solutions, among other solutions, projects, stakeholders, engagement methods, policies, and legislations are all available at the Wavelinks platform. It's an open access platform, which is central to our monitoring strategy. It was launched in collaboration with two other coordination support actions, the Prep for Blue and the Blue Mission Bonus, and it serves as a hub for tracking restoration projects. It hosts data for almost 6,000 projects. It's over 14,000 stakeholders, 1,000 citizen science initiatives, and within the Atlantic and Arctic basins, more than 1,500 projects are are mapped in these areas, and more than 100 focused on restoration under the lighthouse. So collaborations is also at the heart of our success, and we have um, almost 90 charter signatories, including regions, cities, ports, and we have mobilized substantial national, regional, and private funding to drive our mission forward.
Thank you very much, Anna, for this. Awesome. So within Blue Mission AA, this reflection tool which we developed is one task and should really support research and innovation projects in ocean and water fields. So we're going over directly to the tool, and Barbara and I will share the presentation. And yeah, Barbara is the first to start.
Yeah, thank you, Hannah, very much for the introduction. And also thank you, Anna, for this interesting overview already on the project of Blue Mission AA. And as Hannah said, as part of Blue Mission AA, our team at Fraunhofer IRB is working to support the research and innovation projects focused on ocean and water restoration. And our role here is to help the projects to embed sustainability, responsibility, and ethics into both their processes and also into their outcomes. And this is especially important in coastal regions because many communities are also affected, and there are also often different trade-offs between different goals like economic, social, and ecological. So in this context, we developed a practical questionnaire, which is the responsible and sustainable research reflection tool for ocean waters, which we are presenting here. And this tool we aligned with current standards and values, which are shaped by 4 key concepts. And these concepts are the Sustainable Development Goals, responsible research and innovation, open science, and social impact. So next slide, please. So when we go to thank you. So by helping the projects to reflect on their broader impacts and also ethical practices, our tool also increases their chances of success, especially in terms of long-term ecological and societal contributions. That way, the tool is supposed to support the EU mission, as we heard, of restore our ocean and waters by 2030, and the projects that are aligned with the mission. And also, the tool aligns with the topic of this Ocean Action Panel 1, which is the sustainable management and restoration of marine and coastal ecosystems. Next slide, please. So another goal also of our tool is knowledge transfer. So here we would like to get a bit more interactive. So our tool is not just about self-evaluation of the project, it's also about learning. So while the users go through the tool, we also would like them to gain a deeper understanding of the important concepts that I already mentioned and that we've built into the tool. So before I dive into the concepts in more detail, we are also very curious. So what do you already know? How familiar are you with the 2 main concepts, which are the Sustainable Development Goals and RRI, so Responsible Research and Innovation. And here it would be great if we could test it with Slido, if you could answer here, and then we can see when I go into the descriptions of how deep we should go. So if you have any technical issues, let us know. Okay, answers are still coming in. Okay, thank you very much for your input. So from your responses, we can see that SDGs that is quite popular, while RRI is already a bit less known. And here our tool can, okay, still answers coming. So here our tool can actually help because it doesn't only help the users to get more familiar with the concepts, but also how they can be practically applied in real world projects, which sometimes is also relevant in SDG topics that we are normally familiar with, but they are on a very broad and global context often. So let's dive a bit into the concepts. They are all important because they promote social and environmental responsibility. So the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, most of you know, they were adopted in 2015 by the UN. So we just wait for the presentation, but I can already...
Yeah. I'm working on it.
Maybe but I can continue, no problem. So, as you know, they address major global challenges like poverty, climate change, education, clean energy. And SDG 14, probably everyone knows here, it's life below water, of course, plays a very crucial role also in our self-evaluation tool and reflection tool. But what is important is that most of the projects, they connect to several goals at the same time. For example, a marine restoration project can contribute to SDG 14 and at the same time to SDG 13, like climate action by enhancing natural carbon storage, for example. At the same time, the same project could also unintentionally impact in a negative way SDG 10, for example, which is reduced inequalities. So, for instance, if restrictions on fishing activities affect also the livelihoods of the communities in the coastal regions. So basically, our tool should help the project to think through all kinds of these impacts, both in a positive and negative way, so they can make more responsible decisions. So the next concept is social impact. While SDGs offer a global framework focused on people, planet, and prosperity, the concept of social impact, which is also included, looks more closely at how specific a project might directly or indirectly affect people's lives in any sense, basically. This could be well-being, community ties, property rights, or even psychological factors. So including social impact also helps for projects to gain a more detailed understanding of their impacts in the social sphere. And now let's turn to responsible research and innovation. So this concept was developed through the EU's Horizon 2020 program, which was a funding program of the EU for research and innovation. And it promotes the idea that research and innovation should align with societal values and needs. To guide this, the EU identified 6 key pillars that define what responsible research should involve and also helps now to understand the concept better. So these pillars are ethics, science education, gender equality, open access, governance, and public engagement. And there's also a framework developed that defines how responsible research and innovation should be implemented. So these principles here are to anticipate impacts, for example, to reflect on any research assumptions, engage stakeholders, and act responsibly. So it's anticipate, reflect, engage, and act. So the fourth and last concept of our tool is open science. And an open science focuses on making scientific knowledge, meaning data, methods, and results openly accessible and also reusable. So with this, it aims to improve transparency, collaboration, and with this also more efficiency of science and research. So however, open science also recognizes some limits that not all information can be shared. For example, when commercial interests or legal obligations are at stake. So the guiding principle in open science is to be as open as possible and as closed as necessary. So while we see that there could be some overlaps between open science and also responsible research and innovation, because they are both focused on openness, transparency, they still have some different kind of focuses. So to simplify, we could say open science focuses on making research more accessible, transparent, efficient, and RI focuses on, it's more normative. It wants to ensure that research is ethically sound, socially relevant, and inclusive. Next slide, please. So our goal was to bring all of these 4 key concepts together for a holistic self-evaluation through our tool for ocean and waters. And what ties all of these concepts together is this common focus on wanting to meet societal needs. But each concept offers a unique perspective, works at different levels. So the SDGs, for example, they are a global framework for also government bodies and all kinds of organizations. And responsible research and innovation is specifically addressed to research and innovation and is more also usable at the project level. So one of our main challenges and also goals here was to understand how these different concepts overlap, where they need to stand alongside each other, and also how they align. And the result is our tool, which is a unified and holistic reflection tool that tries to integrate all of these different levels, perspectives, in order to create a practical, clear, and also manageable tool that is not overwhelming, big, filled with all of these standards. So basically, it's designed to help research and innovation projects to tackle one guiding main question, we could say. That could be like this: to what extent does our project use its full sphere of influence to contribute to societal and planetary needs? So this can be the overarching theme that also unites all of these concepts and that our tool should help the projects to answer. And that way being really holistic to answer this question. With that in mind, we would also love to hear now from you again if you already use any tools or processes to reflect on this question in your own work, in your projects, be it in research innovation projects or in general, since this question can be always relevant. So let's open another Slido for that. We are very curious on your responses. And Hannah will take it from there.
Thank you so much, Barbara. That was an excellent summary of all our work, I think, regarding the concepts. So yeah, let's see. I'm waiting a bit for the results to trickle in. So yeah, do you have processes or tools to evaluate and reflect on these four concepts? Of course, there's a number of tools available as well. So it's really interesting for us to see how far that is used. Right. Is there any other? No. So most of it have thought about it before in the past. That's really good to know. Yes, used with other aspects, and no. So the majority really haven't used it, and that's really good and nice for us because our tool is really designed for everyone. It's really accessible and easy to use. Also, if you have no prior knowledge of the concepts. So getting on from here. Yeah, so I would like to now present the product finally, the responsible and sustainable research reflection tool for ocean and waters. So let me just briefly explain the structure. We had a look at different tools, frameworks, etc. And we decided to adopt the structure based on the RRI maturity model by Stahl et al., who have three overarching categories. The first is the purpose. So why is a project done? What's the motivation for conducting it? Be it, improvements in sustainability, but also financial aspects or reputational aspects. There can be lots of motivations. So then the process, how is a project research conducted? What's the methodology? Who is taken on board? Yeah, quantitative, qualitative, and so on. Lots of participatory possibilities. And then finally, the product, what's really the output, the result of the research, and how far are they achieved? And it is important to distinguish these different elements because there can be a same product, but the process by which it is achieved can vary heavily, and that can really have an impact, for instance, on the community. If you think about having indigenous communities or coastal villages participating or not, so that really can leave a trace and be really important. So the tool consists of 19 evaluation questions, which each ask for a kind of major overarching criterion. So for example, to what extent is public engagement part of your research process? And then each of these questions contains a number of reflection questions, so as to really explain and make clear what is behind this broader concept. So for instance, does your data collection require informed consent? Each of the 19 questions is rated on a 5-point Likert scale from 1 for not at all to 5 to a great extent. So I'll give you a couple of examples, and here is the QR code where you can access the reflection tool freely. So yeah, first an overview of all the criteria, the 19 criteria. So the first two address the purpose. So they ask whether you are addressing the Sustainable Development Goals as a main objective of your project, and whether RRI is any important to your project. Then process are mainly the RRI categories, whether you anticipate consequences of your project, reflect on the purpose, the processes, and the outcomes, how far you include public engagement, research ethics, and whether you have governance instruments for RRI. And then finally, the product and outcomes are, many of these are actually directly SDGs. So for instance, gender equality and diversity, citizen education, open science, improve people's lives, clean water and sanitation, life below water, sustainable cities and communities. So to make it really easily understandable, I just give you a few questions as examples. So the third would be, to what extent do you anticipate potential consequences of your project that extend beyond its main aim? And then reflection questions are, for instance, do you consider positive and negative consequences of your project? Do you consider the consequences of the project on different cultures and on human activities and employment? Or also, do you consider whether your project will influence people's behavior, attitude, emotions, thoughts, mood, and actions? And we know altogether these questions address a lot. I don't think many projects could meet all of these criteria, but this is really the objective. It's a reflection tool that makes you think where you could adjust your project. Another example is, to what extent is public engagement part of your research process? So for instance, reflection questions are, do you use an adequate methodology to identify stakeholders? Or do you ensure that all stakeholders feel adequately supported to voice their opinions? Or also, how will you ensure that you maintain good relations with your stakeholders? Because these are really things that can leave traces beyond your project. So a final example, to what extent does your project promote life below water, the SDG 14, which we address in this conference? For instance, does your project reduce ocean acidification, or does your project implement and enforce international sea law? And you see there are everywhere these numbers, so we've used a lot of sources which you can find in the online tool. Right, I'm just outlining the advantages of the reflection tool. So as we said, it integrates the 4 concepts, SDGs, RRI, social impact, and open science as the first tool which we found. Of course, we made our research beforehand. It focuses on processes and outcomes, not just one dimension. It is really user-friendly and intuitive. You can use it really quickly, within like 20 minutes, actually go through your project with these questions. And it is destined to be used iteratively, meaning you can use it from the planning phase on, because you see a lot of these aspects should be addressed really early when you think of your research design, through to the end, midterm evaluations, for instance, and through to the end of a project. Or also when you see you have a deficit in a certain area, you can go to a question and easily find ways how to address that. So it unifies a holistic view with a flexible application, and yeah, also aims really for knowledge transfer and then reflection and adjustment within R&I projects. Good. I'm just giving a brief overview how we developed the tool. As I said, we first researched the 4 concepts. We researched existing frameworks and reviewed that, and then thought about how could we usefully unify these 4 concepts within a kind of coherent structure. So that's how we first integrated SDGs and RRI, and then later added open science and social impact. From that on, we developed an online reflection tool based on the evaluation framework that was a bit back and forth in development. And then early this year, we tested it with roughly 30 participants from many Mission Ocean projects, basically, and asked for feedback. And that was really, really helpful because we learned from that feedback. It was mainly really positive. And yeah, we included some points where we could learn from participants and could really improve the tool. So user feedback was, for instance, it is comprehensive and connects the project with the SDGs, which helps again to better understand why the project is done. It shows why it is important to achieve our goals. Or another user said, I think it gave me a good opportunity to reflect on the work we are doing through the project and the areas we need to work on. So that's exactly what we aimed for. Right. Let me just give you some examples what we changed. So this is really a co-creation exercise with the users. We took quite a lot on board. And the most important things were we renamed the whole thing from, it was an assessment, we renamed it to reflection tool to really emphasize its self-reflective nature. Also clarified in this context that this is not a test. It's not really sensible to compare scores between projects. I mean, in some way, but it can also just reflect thematic foci. What I think is the most meaningful comparison is comparing your own project at different points in time. So, you know, how you might have evolved or improved on responsible and sustainable research. And also, importantly, we developed a more general version of the reflection tool, which is not just for ocean and waters R&I projects, but for all research and innovation projects, which should be available soon in our deliverable, which we finished in April this year. Right. So that was the tool presentation. I would now love to come to a user perspective on the reflection tool. I think this really adds value and insights. So I'd like to have a dialogue with Oliver Wilson from the Marine Institute. He's also a colleague from BlueMissionAA, and we'll just briefly introduce Ollie. So yeah, he's the program manager for BlueMissionAA at the Marine Institute and has a background in marine environmental consultancy and policy roles across the UK and New Zealand. So he brings extensive experience in fostering stakeholder collaboration and developing pragmatic, future-focused solutions. So really suitable to the reflection tool as well. Today he will discuss how he envisages using the reflection tool as part of their new project, which is called Blue Action AA, and how the tool can support the collective work to achieve the objectives of the EU mission Restore Our Ocean and Waters by 2030. Right. So, Ollie, let's get started. My first question is, could you please briefly introduce the Marine Institute and this project for which you would like to apply the reflection tool?
Thanks, Hannah. And firstly, thank you very much for the opportunity to talk at your webinar today. Hello, everyone. So the Marine Institute is Ireland's national agency responsible for marine research, technology development and innovation. A key role of ours is to support the sustainable development of Ireland's marine resources. We do that by providing central scientific data, research services, and policy support to government, to industry, and to the wider academia. The Marine Institute itself is well positioned, given its position on the Atlantic coast. We have a unique role within Europe, and we're a key player in European and global research. And as Anna said, a key partner in lots of different EU projects, such as providing infrastructure, research infrastructure through projects like Aquarius, or coordinating research projects like Marine Beacon, looking at reducing bycatch of endangered and threatened protected species. And specifically, I'm involved in BlueMissionAA, which is obviously the lighthouse project focused around Mission Ocean, as outlined earlier. The specific project that I've come to give a use case example for, Hannah, is actually a new project. This is kicking off in September, and so that's called Empowering Community-Led Action in the Atlantic and Arctic. Blue Action AA for short. We see this as a bridging project that links between phase 1 of the mission, of which BlueMissionAA is an integral part, and phase 2 of the mission, of which there's going to be new coordination support actions and new research and innovation. And essentially, this Blue Action AA is made up of 3 components. One is a cascade grant for community-led pilot actions. So it's a cascade grant, so it means that we're receiving money from the European Commission, and then we are developing calls, and then assessing those calls and issuing project funding to successful applicants. One, as I said, for the community-led pilot actions, and the second is for transition agenda. And so those are building on projects, research and innovation that's already existing, and that covers all of the Mission Ocean, restoration and waters objectives. So to date, Blue Mission AA has been focused around restoration, as Anna highlighted, but Blue Action AA, the scope will be expanded to cover pollution, blue economy, and restoration. So we'll be having, come September when we start, we'll be having 3 calls, 1 community-led and 2 transition agendas. Overall, we'll be looking to issue out 9 million worth of funding, and we'll be providing technical assistance across the project for those successful projects. And I guess that's where I come from in terms of your tool, because I've taken a slightly different thought process around how we could utilize your tool, not as a specific project, but more as a facilitator for someone that's trying to empower other people, the success of other people, and act as a springboard for research and innovation actions. And as we're doing calls, think about how we can incorporate your tool in a more systematic way moving forward.
Excellent, Ollie. That's a lot of money. That sounds great for the Mission Ocean, really. I would like to ask the concepts which underlie the tool, the SDGs, RRI, open science, social impact. How are they relevant to Blue Action AA?
Well, in terms of Blue Action AA, the strategic alignment is very much around the Sustainable Development Goals. And so that's consistent through the Mission Ocean, and obviously through the Mission Ocean and European Commission, we have guidance around the SDGs, which then also obviously links into RRI, or responsible research and innovation, and the open science concepts. But significantly at the moment, you'll have, or people may be aware, but there's a huge push to demonstrate the impact that we're having. And now that's obviously a very difficult thing in terms of research and innovation. It takes time to demonstrate impact. Projects have to be set up with impact in mind, both in a monitoring context and also how you monitor it. Not all impact is quantitative, but how we qualitatively determine impact. And so very much we see this tool as it's pitched as a reflection tool, and I think that's really appropriate to existing projects, but we very much see it as also a potential for this to be a tool for people to reflect on their ideas as they develop a project. So use it as a development tool as well.
Excellent. Yeah, absolutely. Really from the start on. So how would you describe your motivation to use the tool in your role as well?
Well, the tool, our motivation for use a tool is to give the people that will be applying for our funding the best opportunity to maximize their chances to get funding through our open and transparent processes and our review processes. It means that we also have an ability to have a transparency for our assessment process and our funders. It promotes equity and inclusiveness. It also really helps us as a project through our assessment processes understand the motivations of the individual projects. And so our motivation is making sure that people that are applying for our funding align with our motivations, and sometimes writing a proposal to what's written in the call doesn't always give you a good insight into people's motivations, or necessarily mean that they have understood their own motivations in some cases of how they've structured it. And so I think this we believe will give our projects a better chance of having a more holistic impact. And I think Barbara raised the point about meeting the societal needs, and is the project really meeting the societal needs? And I think our motivation is making sure that when we get applications, we've got strong holistic applications that will meet the aspirations of not just the funding bodies but society at large. Our projects are driven by societal needs, so we want to make sure that anyone putting forward a project has very much considered all of the components that your tool includes.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. I mean, that's exactly what we aim for, right? We aim for having an uptake of this tool, of course. We want to see it being used. So you're all invited to use it, of course, and to spread the word. That's really our objective, to have a hands-on tool to then make a difference with regards to societal needs. So you said you come from a bit of a different angle. So how would you describe your vision to use the tool, or did you think of really including it into processes?
Well, I think my vision here is that it's much more of a systematic integration. So we can use it throughout a project's lifespan. So it could be used. We see there's some real potential and scope here for the project tool to be a reflection to be conducted by people involved in the project, maybe multiple people within a project. One, because that will make sure that everybody within a project team has the same understanding, the same motivations. It will identify gaps potentially in project designs and development. And then subsequently, it will enable people to monitor and rerun the tool as you move forward to determine if you're actually achieving what you had thought you were going to be achieving at the outset. So in a much more holistic manner in terms of these societal needs and in terms of the RRIs that you yourself and Barbara outlined earlier. I know that there's some development of the tool still ongoing, and there's some real potential to further develop it. But I think having that and having outputs in the future that projects can utilize and even present as part of an application process, and then present back in terms of self-reflections when projects are being assessed. It's potentially a real additional way for us as a collective to demonstrate our impact, because impact won't always be measured in just surveys. And so I think self-reflection is very important. And you can also then compare your self-reflection to an external reflection, for example, in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Right. Could you, so if you would have used this tool earlier in a project, could you share maybe an anecdote or example how it might have helped you with specific challenges or, I don't know, enhancing research outcomes, for instance?
Yeah. So as Hannah identified, I've had a varied career so far, spanning multiple countries. So to use an example, in New Zealand, we conducted research projects around reducing the impact of or quantifying the level of bottom contact for trawling across different fishing vessels, and looked at fishing gear changes to see how that would change the level of impact. But I think taking this reflection tool at the start of the project to identify the motivations and how we could have brought in an increased level of transparency and inclusiveness would have enabled us to enhance our societal and our scientific outputs. Furthermore, I think a tool like this can make sure that you're thinking about the design of the project and how you can then feed into the bigger strategic goals, or the company's bigger strategic goals, or whether that be the projects. And so, for example, in that case, it would mean that we would have been able to reflect and then potentially review our project in a systematic way to enable us to have a bigger political and policy impact by showing our results, or indeed maybe even changing the way in which we engage with different stakeholders or design the project. So I think there's real potential here if you want to get impact through policy as well, to and align with that bigger strategic vision coming from the Mission Ocean, for example, in my context now. And that I think we need to do this reflection at the start to make sure that we can join the dots and connect projects to the bigger picture.
Absolutely agree. Thank you so much, Ollie. Anything else you wanna say?
I just thank you for the presentation to everyone. I think this is a really interesting tool, as I say, and I think it's got some real scope to be continued to be developed in whatever shape or form. But I think from a project design, we're certainly looking at it in terms of how we can integrate it into BlueMissionAA. Thanks very much again for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Ollie. That's, I mean, we're really, really open for that. I think that would be a great idea to have it integrated more systematically, really relate to funders, to funding organizations, etc., institutions. So I think what you also see here is that we are still thinking about, we finished this tool, but we're really thinking about how to further develop it, disseminate it, exploit it. So your thoughts and ideas on that are really welcome now, because we're now heading to the discussion. Also, if you have any questions to Ollie, really just post them in the chat. Right. So yeah, we would now like to open the floor and engage with you. If you have any questions, please write them in the chat, and we'll read them out. And otherwise, I also have a few questions, but please still feel free to post anything that comes to your mind. Oh yeah, excellent. Here's a question by Ellen Johannesson. She writes, as a gender specialist, I think it is really great that the tool explicitly addresses the gender dimension that is often overlooked in ocean science projects. We need to explicitly consider how research and innovation projects help support sustainable ocean futures for people of all genders. Thank you so much, Ellen. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Yeah, we've that's why we have included it as one criterion. Right. Ollie, maybe if I can, because when preparing our dialogue, etc., I always kind of kept thinking, what's your stance on that? So what do you think? How far is it useful to really kind of integrate a tool like ours into processes? Kind of still avoiding too much, say, reporting or bureaucracy. I've worked in bureaucracy reduction before, so I'm just, I don't have a fixed stance on that yet, but I would love to hear your thoughts.
I think we have to find an optimal balance. So I think we risk overburdening, so in the Blue Action context, overburdening applicants by requiring that they complete these different tools. So it depends, I think, on the scale of the project about it being a requirement, but definitely it would be something that we would be promoting, because as we discussed, it certainly enhances the level of thought and consideration. And I really like the concept of different project members comparing what they've actually thought they were achieving, or the level of inclusiveness that they've got inside a project. But I think we have to find that optimum level between it being a requirement and how it's pitched. I think the other side of it being how we, as a Cascade call, somebody that's implementing Cascade calls, how we're going to incorporate that into any kind of assessment process. Now we're still thinking about that ourselves, but certainly this is a tool that we think can really strengthen proposals. I do think there's value in using a tool like this through the life of a project to show how people's concepts and reflections have changed over time, because I think that's a really useful way to track how a project is actually developing, and it actually shows adaptive management in not just the context of what results you're getting about, but also people in terms of participation and concepts. Arguably, as a bit of an extension to that point, arguably one way that you could do that is a project could utilize a tool like this to engage with stakeholders and actually get stakeholder feedback in that context, and that might also provide the project an external review of how inclusive they think they are compared to how inclusive they are perceived to be. So I think that's some real potential, linking, for example, to Ellen's point about gender inclusivity. So that might be it might be that a project thinks it's got a good balance, but maybe certain stakeholders only ever see males or only ever see females, for example, or so I think that's an interesting point that we always used to fight. You always used to push back on, is that people's perceptions is their reality. So we have to. I think it's arguably something we don't do very well with engaging with communities, and Mission Ocean is very much about engaging with communities, bringing them along, empowering them. So I think them having a reflection tool that can feed back to projects is not at your stage of the project. I appreciate Hannah and Barbara, but this is, I think, where I think a tool like this could be really used in a bigger picture, strategic way moving forward. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you so much, Ollie. Yeah, that's yeah, I fully agree. It's important to keep the balance, but I think that's absolutely possible in that way. I'm interested in, well, from which contexts everyone is coming, for instance, from local government, funding agencies, research, communities also. What I would be really interested is in which applications you see for the tool from your perspective. So if there's, yeah, I would love to see your thoughts in the chat if you like. Meanwhile, so for instance, if I think of my kind of research past, when I did my PhD, I think we didn't have anything like this, such a tool. I mean, we had an ethics procedure, of course, which is addresses a lot of inclusivity and data protection, sensitivity issues, really important processes. However, I would have loved such a tool, to be honest, to really get an insight into these concepts. I mean, I've heard of them, but I haven't had a really deep knowledge. And I think for me, it would have been really helpful to have a look at this in the start to kind of integrate a few points or just know what to look for also when I conducted my research. Yeah. Yeah, Barbara, completely. If you like, you can also directly speak. Does that work, or can only we speakers? I'm not exactly sure whether everyone can take the word, Patricia.
Raise the hand. Yeah, we can.
So, sorry, I have a question for yourself and Barbara.
Mhm.
Just whilst other people are writing in questions, how when somebody completes your tool, did I think I understood that it then gets integrated through wavelengths,
Yes, thank you.
such
Yeah.
as I think Anna talked about wavelengths, but I'm just wondering how can we see the results that we get out of it? Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Ollie. Yeah, that's it comes in a last kind of slide, but it's really good that you ask that. So exactly. So at first, if you complete the tool, you can then download for yourself just a record of your answers, basically a PDF. You can save that. If you want, you can conduct the tool at another point in time, compare your results. We're yeah, kind of working on a bit of a nicer graphical representation of that, but yeah, you get the results. And also, we're just working on integrating the results into wavelengths. So under projects, there will be another tab with the reflection tool, explaining the tool briefly, and then showing all of the results for projects who agreed to have their name listed directly. And then you have sort of a spider web diagram showing a project and then comparing it with a mean. So you get an idea what are strengths, what are areas to work on for the projects. Right. Yeah, Patricia just writes, if anyone wants to join, they can raise their hand and Patricia can unmute you.
I also would have a question maybe concerning our last the Slido. So you said that you use other aspects for a tool or for your reflection on your process for your reflection.
It was just frozen. Was it for everyone else too? I didn't get that point. Yeah, could you repeat the question,
Am I
Barbara?
back?
Yes, you're back now, but it
Yes.
was frozen for
Yeah,
a bit.
I was just curious because we had the Slido with the question if you all the participants, if you also reflect on your processes, on your societal contribution and impact. And someone answered that yes, but with other aspects that we didn't mention. So maybe if you could also put in the chat what other aspects are also relevant in this questionnaire that, yeah, I was really curious.
Yeah, that would be really interesting. Yeah. Right. I'm just looking at the time. We're nearing the hour. Is there any more questions? Then please jump in now. Right. I don't see anything now, so I would like to have another Slido asking you what you did take away from the session today. So we kind of wrap up now. It really takes a bit of time, right? To send it over. Okay. Right. Thank you very much. That's really good to hear. Huge potential. Was very informative about the concepts and integration. Thank you. The value of this tool for reflecting on social impact throughout a research project's life cycle. Great. Thank you so much for your feedback. Right, so I would love to just quickly summarize and wrap up the session. So yeah, what we covered today, we introduced ourselves, we introduced BlueMissionAA, our project, and then the responsible and sustainable research reflection tool for ocean and waters, did a bit of a deep dive in how it works and how we developed it. And then I think that was really very valuable, have Ollie's user perspective on the reflection tool and potential users, also thinking about its future developments. And also to really kind of strengthen its impact to support a sustainable society and ecological sustainability. Right, where do we go from here? We are now in the process of disseminating the reflection tool. We'll hold targeted events to do so, and also engage in social media, networking and collaborations, further integration into wavelengths, and also explore the industry usage of both of the reflection tools. Right. So thank you all very much. Thank you for your attendance, your interest, and yeah, thank you all to the speakers. I think so. To me, it was a really engaging and really insightful session. And yeah, I wish you a great further UN Ocean Conference. And please contact me if you want to discuss anything further. Thank you so much, and have a good afternoon.
Thank you very much to everyone.
Cheers. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.